A chill runs down your spine when you realize something is missing, something that was always there, a familiar sound, a constant presence. But what if an entire city, bustling with life one day, simply vanished the next, and no one, not a single soul, seemed to notice? This is Dark Reflex, and today we're diving into the unnerving tale of a metropolis that became a ghost town, not through cataclysm, but through a silence so profound it echoed in the void of collective memory. Before we delve into the eerie quiet of this forgotten city, I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt a sudden, inexplicable sense of loss, as if something significant has been erased from your personal history? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Our story begins not with a bang, but with a whimper, a gradual fading that may have started with something as subtle as a shift in a local news report. The city, known as Veridia, was once a vibrant hub, a beacon of progress and innovation. Its skyscrapers pierced the clouds, its streets pulsed with the energy of millions. Its cultural institutions attracted visitors from across the globe. Veridia was especially famous for its annual Festival of Lights, an event that painted the night sky with dazzling displays, attracting tourists and generating immense revenue. It was a city that undeniably existed in the collective consciousness. Or so we thought. The first hint that something was wrong didn't appear in a dramatic exposé, but quietly, inside the archives of a regional historical society. A young and diligent intern named Clara, while cataloging old newspapers from the late 1990s, stumbled upon a series of articles describing the construction of Veridia's monumental central library. The articles were meticulous: blueprints, interviews with architects, projected completion dates. Clara, a history enthusiast, was intrigued. She had never heard of Veridia. A quick search through modern databases yielded nothing. No Veridia, no central library. It was as if the city had been scrubbed clean from the face of the earth. At first, Clara dismissed it as a cataloging error, perhaps a mislabeled archive, or even a fictional city mentioned in a serialized newspaper story. But the details were too precise, too grounded in reality. The politicians mentioned in the articles existed. The construction companies existed. The civic figures quoted were all real people. Yet their connection to Veridia was completely absent from modern records. Clara's curiosity, once a quiet hum, began to grow into something far louder. She cross-referenced more newspapers, microfiche archives, and dusty city planning documents. The evidence continued to mount. Veridia was real. It had thrived. And then, without explanation, it ceased to be. The timeline of Veridia's existence became Clara's obsession. Beginning in the late 1980s, its growth appeared exponential. Population numbers surged, infrastructure projects multiplied, its economy boomed, driven largely by a rapidly expanding tech industry. City council meetings, preserved in painstaking detail, discussed everything from traffic congestion to park maintenance. Veridia was a thriving city, a center of innovation and progress, documented across thousands of pages of official records. But then, sometime around 2005, the mentions began to fade. Not abruptly, not like a sudden collapse, but slowly, subtly, like a photograph left too long in the sun. News coverage grew scarce, official documents stopped appearing, and the city simply stopped showing up in public records. What happened to Veridia? Was it some unprecedented natural disaster? An event so catastrophic that it erased not only the city but also its memory from the world? Clara investigated this possibility exhaustively. Satellite imagery from the period showed no meteor impacts, no seismic destruction, no volcanic eruptions in the region where Veridia was supposedly located. There were no refugee crises, no international aid efforts, no mass graves. Nothing that suggested millions of people had suddenly vanished. According to modern maps, the land where Veridia should have stood is now an uninhabited stretch of forest alongside a small, unremarkable town called Oakhaven, a settlement that had existed quietly for centuries. But the most disturbing aspect of the mystery wasn't simply the disappearance of a city, it was the absence of memory. Clara interviewed historians, geographers, and elderly residents of Oakhaven. Not one person remembered a city named Veridia existing anywhere nearby. They responded with polite confusion, as if she were describing a dream. How could an entire metropolis, a center of culture and commerce, simply vanish from human memory? This wasn't a hidden village. It was a major urban center, This wasn't merely a historical anomaly, it was a psychological one. Clara began to consider darker possibilities. A form of collective amnesia, a shared delusion, or perhaps an extremely sophisticated disinformation campaign. But who would benefit from erasing an entire city? And how could such a deception be maintained across generations, across entire societies? The questions multiplied. The annual Festival of Lights became one of the most disturbing details. Millions of people would have attended over the years. How could so many witnesses simply forget an event so vibrant, so spectacular? Eventually, Clara arrived at a chilling conclusion. Perhaps Veridia was never destroyed. Perhaps it was never fully perceived to begin with. What if Veridia had been an experimental construct, a simulacrum designed to test the limits of human perception and memory? What if its existence depended on specific conditions, and when those conditions changed, the city simply dissolved back into the ether, leaving behind only faint echoes inside forgotten archives? The idea was terrifying. A city that existed as a collective hallucination, or worse, a meticulously engineered illusion that was simply switched off. The silence of Veridia is not the silence of ruins. It is the silence of absence, a void where something should undeniably exist. It is the kind of silence that makes you question your own memories, your own perception of reality. If an entire city can vanish from the collective consciousness, what else might be disappearing without our knowledge? What else are we forgetting? Or perhaps being made to forget? The story of Veridia remains an unsolved enigma, a reminder of the fragility of reality and the unsettling power of the unseen. If something on this scale could be erased, what other truths might still be hiding just beyond our reach, waiting to be rediscovered in some forgotten archive? Veridia didn't just disappear, it was unwritten. A story erased from the grand narrative of humanity. And the most terrifying part? No one noticed. Stay in the dark with me.